Hi everybody, Nigel here with you again, and today's video is this front pulley we need to replace. Now this isn't really part of the engine build as such, this is actually something else I'm doing on the side really. This here on the Land Rover comes as an assembly and it costs about 200 quid, and it's a huge cast plate which goes on the front and it's got this pulley in it, and I believe it comes with this pulley here as well, which I've taken off. So this is pressed in from behind. It's the bearing is then peened over and this shaft is pressed in, and there's a tin plate on the back that covers it, just like a dust cover, and it's flat when you get it, but this is how mine is now because I used that shaft to press it out. So I made another one out of nylon that I can press back in, so that just pops in, and it's made slightly bigger than this board because there's a recess in there, so it actually sort of pops in, you know, and it needs to be a top hat sort of shape so that it clears the actual bearing where it comes in. I'll give you a close-up shot in a second. So yeah, rather than buy this whole thing, I'm going to get the bearing, and the bearing, there's the number there. Okay, this is actually an SNR box. It's a Japanese bearing, so it's going to be good quality. It's not Chinese. £36 I think that was. You can shop around and find it cheaper. What was annoying, I found it in a company in France for about £12, but they wouldn't ship to the UK because of all the new EU stuff. So basically that's what we're going to do. So what we've got to do is press all this apart, and then all I'm going to do is put it on the press, support the back, and press this shaft out of this hub first of all. That'll come off, and then we'll be left with the shaft in the bearing left in the centre. I'm going to decide where to go from there because on the back we've got some peening. So I'll bring the camera closer to the bench and then I can show you exactly what it is we've got. Okay, so this is what we got. Obviously you've got the pulley there in the bearing, you can hear. Doesn't sound very nice at all, so I need to replace it. I may well have damaged it when I was pressing it in and out, but it is a deep groove bearing, so it should be pretty tough. But while the engine's out, and it's stupid to put it back in knowing I've got a bearing noise. So as we can see on the back there, if you look, you can see here where it's kind of peened over rather than have a circlip or something in there. So another cost-saving exercise by the way. So what we've got to do is we've got to press all this apart, and we're going to have to grind out or cut out or something those peens to get it out, or we might just try pressing the bearing out and see if it cuts through them. We shall see. But first of all let's get this all pressed out. So I'll get it on the press and press everything out and get it all apart, and I'll get the camera on, but I don't know how much talking I'll do. Okay, so there we go. There's the three component parts: the pulley, the shaft, and the casting. So obviously I'm being more careful with this than you may normally be because of all my freshly painted parts. And you saw there on the press, trying to find the right sizes is very, very difficult. I tend to not to use sockets, whereas most people do use sockets, because one, it cracks the chrome on the sockets and ruins them. Two is you'll find it, I mean, like I did use a socket on this, and you can see where I did actually catch the threads when I was putting it back together. So I do try and avoid it as much as I can. I try and use aluminium pressing where I can, and then if you do rub up against the side of a bore or you catch something, then it's not going to cause any damage. But for this we can just thread file that, and I'll show you a thread file which I've got here, if you've never seen one, and it's basically a file for filing threads, and I happen to know this is a 1.5mm pitch, so all you would do on this damage here is come along with your file and just go over it, and you can see the grooves the grooves in the foil fit perfectly in the threads. So basically it's just filing any raised areas off the thread. And then for bores, you've got this bit here, so you would actually go around the inside of the bore like that and kind of scrape it out. So it's a handy tool to have. You can get the metric and imperial, and very, very handy when you've got special parts like this if you damage a thread. So anyway, I digress. So we're now going to look at getting this, so that's okay like it is, that's okay like it is. We need to look at getting this bearing out, and as I said, as I showed you before, we've got those bits in there we need to get out. Now I think probably the best way to get in there is with a Dremel and just literally grind them out. Now I've got a little milling machine, so I may actually try and mill them out. We shall see, but whatever I do I will show you and I will let you know what's best. Okay, so I've done the cut those back now. I initially set it up on the milling machine, but the trouble is because the bearing's got a chamfer, you couldn't get sort of down into the corner. So what I've done is gone in with this little multi-tool. Okay, I use a Clark one. I used to have a couple of Dremels and they didn't last 5 minutes. This thing's lasted years. So for once I will praise a Clark product. But here you go, you can see that I've gone in there. And it doesn't matter about grinding the bearing because the bearing's scrap anyway. But just grind away those peened over edges and then we should be able to press the bearing out. So let's go and give it a go. Okay, so set up on the press now. You've got a little block of wood under here because on the back there's a step so it keeps it flat. So we'll see how this goes. I'm not sure if this is going to work or not. We shall see. But it is a deep groove bearing, so we should be able to get away with pressing the centre. Look at that. There it goes. It's come out. Or the bearing's shattered, but it feels very much like it's come out. So let's have a look. Let's pull it out here. Take our lump off. Yep, the bearing's coming out beautifully. You can see there. So it's coming through. So we need to get it over the hole. I'm sure Land Rover never intended us to do this. This was never meant to be. But hey, in this day of this throwaway society, I think I'm probably, yeah, I've got it on the wrong place on the blocks. Let's try that. Well, that came out with a bang, didn't it? Jesus. So there we go. I must say I have never seen a bearing pop out like that before. That was quite dangerous. That could have been nasty. I just have to remember that for the future. Anyway, so we've got it all pressed out now. We've got it all cleaned out inside. Everything's nice and clean. I vacuumed the bench just in case there's any grinding debris here, so we're all nice and clean. So just give that an extra quick little wipe. So what we've got to do now is press the bearing in. So I've made a couple of tools, and here's the old bearing. So this is like 54.90D, and it's got this 30mm spigot, so it locates nicely on the bearing there, and I can press that in, and it's pushing on the outer shoulder rather than the inner. You don't want to be pressing on the inner. So there we go. So that's that. And then for pressing it all back together, I'm going to I've made up a little dummy. So what I'm going to do is put that inside there, like so. Okay, I'll get a little tap. And then what I can do is, once the bearing is in there, I can rest this on there, and I know that everything's central, and then I can just push through, and this shaft will come through and push that out. So there we go. So that's going to go on like that, you can see in there, and then we're going to press it all through. So let's get on with it. Let's get over the press and get this bearing pressed in. Okay, I've got a block of wood under it just to protect the paint, so it looks so it doesn't tarnish it too much. So just do the stop up on the press. Get my arm out of your way, and then this should go in smoothly. Should be an operative word. There we go. Here's the wood cracking. It means it's down. So there we go. Pull it out. And there's our bearing. Nicely pressed in and home. So now we've got to do some more peening. Okay, so there we go, it's all peened. It's not very pretty, but it never will be with my hand. But it's just done over the chisel. It's just push the edges over a bit. I don't think it's going to go anywhere anyway. It's got no no frontal load on it, and it's you know, it's very tight pressed in there. So there we go. Right, so now we need to press the shaft through. So I don't want to press the shaft against the body because I want to press it against the inner. So the easiest thing to do is use this inner here, put that on like that. We can place that on the press like so, and what we can do is put a piece of aluminium there to allow that to come through. Okay, and then we can basically press that out using the shaft by pressing down on there. So let's go over to the press and we'll see how it looks. Okay, so I haven't got enough height and I can't be bothered to move it all the way down. One of the biggest issues with this, you've got like 6 inches between the holes that this goes down. So you can see this is the next one here. It's just too coarse. It needs to be finer. So what I'm going to do is just place this directly on here, and with that aluminium bar in there, it helps me guide it all. Believe me, this is a horrible job, guys, because it doesn't balance itself. It's bloody awful. It's horrible to hold on to for everything, every operation we do on it. So there we go. So we just come down with the press. And what we're doing now is, you see, we're not pressing, not with any strain on the bearing at all. We're pressing through the bearing onto the pulley. There's the aluminium gone. So I'm going to come away now. I feel it going into the pulley. Let it come all the way up. You've got to be careful, because if you catch the threads on the edge of there, it will cause damage. So we'll move that over now. We'll put this on here. Oops. And then we can, oh dear, there's always something in the bloody way. This thing is so awkward. Right, put that like that. Do the handle up. Down, come on, get it centered over there, and then carry on pressing that through. There we go. Let that come up, and then just to make sure we are actually through and all the way, because I think, oh no, we're good to go. So I know that's pressed in. I'm going to give that extra little push just to make sure it is all the way home. Push, that's 3 tons on there, that should do it. So there we go. So there we have our one new bearing, and we've got silent running. So there we go, guys, all looking nice and shiny still, all nice and clean, and we've got totally silent pulley. So there we go. Now the only thing left to do now is put that cover back in the back. So I mean, what I can do at the end of the day, if it does get bad, if it does move, what I can do is drill and tap like a couple of M4 holes in there, and then put a bolt down either side to hold them in. That's the common thing. Perhaps I should have done that before I put the bearing, because if I do it now I'm going to get swarf in the bearing. So I'm just going to blow that out quickly with an airline, and then we'll put the cover back in. Okay, so here's the nylon cover, the top hat. So that can go in. We just basically push that into one side, like so, and then it can just be, come on, there we go. And that goes in, and there we are, all done. 160 pounds saved, and hours work. So there we are. Hang on, this is no good. I don't like this at all. So what I've done, I've gone for a couple of days now and I've done it different. I wasn't happy with my peening, so what I've done, I've actually done some machining on here, and I've drilled, as you can see, drilled and countersunk 3 holes. Okay, so and they're actually line up with, there's some ribbing in there they line up with, so I haven't gone through. And then turned up this aluminium cup, so you can see it's going to go on the back and it's going to press down on the shoulder of the bearing. So drop that in like so, and then we put the 3 M5 countersunk screws in. Excuse the background noise, we've got screaming, football and shouting today, so all good. There we go, that's that in there. Just like so. So that can clamp down. Just like that. And now I know that that bearing is not only pressed in place, and I don't think it ever would have moved, but just in case, you never know. So I've decided to do that, and now I know that that is in there solid and my bearings all still good. And that, you know, as you can see here, is actually my brake clean. For some reason today it's decided to start leaking. It must be something to do with the atmospheric pressure. So there we go. So that's it guys, all done. Happy with that. So it's ready to bolt back on the engine.